Welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be doing my first impression power rankings for all VCT America's teams, excluding EG, because they had a bye, so they haven't played a match yet. Let's start things off with Loud at number 1. I really like the way Loud performed. They overperformed to my expectations. I shouldn't have underestimated Sadok's IGLing and his just ability to craft just strange, interesting comps that really exploit traditional compositions like they did on Ascent with the Phoenix Breach KO composition. They also had a Viper there, Omen as expected. But I mean, they just continue to innovate. They continue to look good and have just really good set protocols. And even with losing Aspas, they really have made QCK fit into their system. He probably fits the Sadok system even better than Aspas did because he is a little more just flexible on the probably roles he's willing to play. Like he already brought out the Phoenix. He can play some of those initiators if Sadok wants to do no duelist comps. So it really gives Sadok a little bit more free will and freedom, basically, to create different compositions that go against the meta. So I really think that he is going to be a good fit in there. Obviously, Aspas is a terrific player and continued to show that on Leviathan this week. But QCK really fits that system good. And just the Sadok system overall really benefits whoever's playing Duelist as well as like the Sentinel player. His timings on lurks were really good. They lost a couple rounds to Sentinels that they really shouldn't have. There were a couple sneaky diffuses on split, and even though they technically shouldn't have won split, Sen kind of let them come back into it. Their Ascent was so dominant that like they really just took control. It was a 13-9, but it could have easily been a 13-6 the way they were playing. So I'll have Loudus first. I think they're going to give Leviathan their hands full in their matchup. And going on to number 2 is NRG, actually. I really like the way NRG played. I was expecting them to look a little shaky. New IGL, different system for Demon 1. I was expecting things to look a little uncomfortable, but a lot of skill. But their synergy was really good. They've obviously been working really hard. The flashes were on point. They're just the ways they wanted to approach the map. They had really good pistol strats, as well as just good kind of innovation. Like their mid rounding was a little, questionable at some points, but overall the strats to start the rounds were really good. The firepower on this team is really good, and the coordination was really good. And that was what I wasn't expecting, was the coordination to be really good. So the fact that those all are checked there, I think Ethan will really come into the IGL role. He really looked good fragging, and his IGLing was good. But I just think teams that have a better IGL than Furier and a better system going against them are going to make NRG look a little weaker and Ethan look a little less strong at that position. But they're still going to be really good. Don't get me wrong. Ethan is a terrific fragger. And I mean, his flashes on KO are he is the best KO in the world. I don't think there's a better one out there. Krax plays it more, but I'd say Ethan is more impactful with his flashes and with his just util in general. Anyways, that's my, rant about NRG. They're doing really good. They've got a good system over there. They'll be really good. Leviathan will be third for me. They looked really good. If you don't consider the split map, if you erase that from your head, but at the same time, 100 Thieves had a really good idea of how they want to approach their map. The Gecko and Fade composition is probably not to be expected, and they just looked like it really punished the weaknesses of that Sova pick coming out from Leviathan. That being said, Aspas is still really freaking good. King's IGLing still looks really good. I was really impressed with his IGLing, even though he definitely had an off series for sure. He and Tex just really couldn't find much value fragging wise. But at the same time, when they're not playing the roles where they're expected to get the majority of the kills. That's going to be going to Aspas. And even Calm is playing more of an upfront initiator. Like usually he's back setting things up with the Sova, but on Sky he's a little more up in there, up in the executes and whatnot. So they don't really need King and Tex to pop off. That being said, they probably will find their footing at some point. Tex on Sentinel, he'll be fine on that role, and King is, still on his same role, being that kind of lurker, initiator player, sometimes like the Viper, sometimes the Breach, kind of just a gap filler for that team. But their set stuff looked really good. I love their experimentation with the Reyna on Icebox. I thought that was a really good composition that really punished that Gecko pick coming out from Boostio. And also just the fundamental stuff on Bind. Like they just kind of outclassed 100 Thieves on Bind. They just didn't really have an answer to anything. But yeah, their A executes on Icebox look really good as well. I'm going to put them there. Sentinels, fourth. I definitely had higher expectations for this team, but they still look good. And I heard that a lot of technical issues were happening in that Loud game. So they were kind of thrown off a little bit. They looked like they weren't. They were playing a little scared, not how they usually do. That 100 Thieves game looked a lot better. Their mid rounding was very good. I just really like the way this team plays. They're hard to anti-strat because they come up with so much stuff on the fly. Tens is really coming into his own on the Omen. Zekin just looks phenomenal on the Rays. He just continues to look very good. And it's like Zekin is a great piece for John Cuty's IGLing because he can kind of just call fast strats different parts of the map because Zekin is so good with the util and the team is so good at supporting him. Saucy with the flashes, Tens with the smokes, and Zelsis with he'll be usually holding a different part of the map. Like on Split, he was holding the B with the B wall and the orb, which I thought was really good. I liked their composition on Split a lot. They could really threaten both sides of the map on attack and just had a lot of stall potential on the defense side. That being said, Sentinels right now, they don't look fully fleshed out. They have a lot of really good protocols, but they just don't have enough explosiveness in them, I'd say. They've got, they can do fast strats, but that's not what I'm really talking about with explosiveness. I'm talking about where they have a certain strat that they can throw at a team and it's almost just like an overpowering strat. They don't seem to have that. They like to play that default style a bit more that gives John ability to mid round, with like a lot of the times on Split, they'd walk up mid with an initiator player and he'd get himself into a good lurk spot and then the rest of the team would go hit B or A and that would really set up the round. They just don't really have a really good fast strat execute off the beginning of the round for almost any map. Split looked pretty good, but Bind was a little more shallow, and even their Lotus actually looked really good. Just the protocols with the doors, punishing pushes out of C, punishing pushes out of A, and then just holding down C on the defensive side. I think they definitely have the potential to shoot up, but from what I've seen of them, I would put them in fourth. I just don't think they have the same firepower as these guys do, as Loud, Energy, and Lev do. I could be wrong about this, but I think this four is kind of set right now. These look like the four best teams for sure in VCT Americas. Now let's get into some of the teams that didn't perform as well. However, even though 100 Thieves are fifth and they didn't perform as well, or I'm sorry, I'm going to put 100 Thieves at fifth. They did not perform as well. They went 0-2, but I still really liked what they had cooking up with the Gecko Fade stuff. They played two really close series against Leviathan and Sentinels, who are two of the top four teams in my opinion. And if they had been in another group, if they had been in the NRG group, I believe they would have gotten out second. I think they're better than Cloud9, Furia, and MIBR right now. Boostio just continues to look like one of the best fragging IGLs in the world, as well as he has really instilled the confidence and the ability to fight for this team. This team has in the past, when it comes to get scrappy, when things break down, they just look helpless. They look so individual. They're fighting with coordination. They're fighting with util. They have a lot of really cool set strats coming in that just have the fingerprints of EG and head coach Zix all over them. Just their Gecko Molly over the top of a ramp with an Astra suck and as well as a Viper wall is just so suffocating to deal with. That's the kind of stuff I want to see from Sen, is those kind of set pieces. And 100 Thieves did those very well. They struggled in the mid-rounding a bit because you could see Boostio trying to lead the charge. Sometimes the team would be with him, sometimes they wouldn't, and that was when things would kind of fall apart, is when it kind of looked like they were freestyling a bit. However, when they have set plans on how they want to approach maps and opponents, I think this team will do very well. They have now a month, I think a month and a half, maybe just a month, but to prepare for the regular season, I think they'll look very good in that and have a potential of shooting up the ranks. But right now, I'll put them fifth. That's how they're looking. For sixth place, I'm going to put, actually not Crew, I'm going to put G2. G2, they definitely disappointed me with how they were playing against Crew. Crew played very well, don't put it past them, but I just expected G2 to have a lot more protocols and set plays coming into the VCT season, but a lot of their play was slow. A lot of their play was depending on, they mid-rounded very well. I will give that to Valen. Valen did a heck of a job on Sunset, calling a really fantastic attack side, just trying to bait out the gamble stacks from Crew because that was what Crew got him with in the first map. But I was really unimpressed with the Brim pick. I was like, oh, cool, on Icebox, we're seeing a Brimstone. And there were some neat ideas on how to break certain turrets and how to hit certain sites and certain one-ways with the Brim Spoke, but it just doesn't look that good on Icebox. And the fact that G2 won that series, it could have gone either way, honestly. At some points, it's just the players on this team are really good. Leaf had a down series for sure, and Trent being off of Sova seems strange to me, but at the same time, Jonah P had a really phenomenal series. So this G2 team has still a lot of firepower, but I thought they would also have a lot of really good strats and protocols. And they had some, but they just didn't have as much as I would have expected their Ascension team to have because they had a lot more, it seemed. And it also seems Leaf is uncomfortable on the entry role with the squad. You see him looking different ways when he's entering in the site. It's like he doesn't know what angles are being watched. I think that is going to definitely hurt G2 when they play against some of these top 5 teams. However, against Crew, they got punished sometimes, but they weren't always punished. Crew, I will put in 7th. They looked actually really good, and I think they have a lot of potential to shoot up this tier list. Kesnet is just still a phenomenal player. Just all around their reads. Melzer's IGLing I'm really impressed with too. I just think this team needs another level to them besides walking up and just hitting a site. And because G2 started to figure that out and they started to deny them the space to walk up, and that really hurt them on Sunset and even Ascent sometimes. Like, it's just Crew needs a bit more to them than the walk up strategy and kill everyone. Because they're a bit of a lurking team. They like to find different individual timings on their own. And that is good. That's really good to have in your playbook, but that is a little inconsistent because if a team gets a read on you, or if you get unlucky on some of your timings, you're going to be losing rounds because you're going to be putting your teams in 4v5s or 3v5s. So I like this. I like them at 7th here with the potential to shoot up. They just need a few more strats, a few more set protocols on the defensive side, not so they don't over-rotate when G2's faking and stuff like that. Like, they did look a little jumpy, and like that they were trying to play against G2's traditional strats, and they were trying to show them something new, which I do admire that they were trying to shake things up, but at the same time, I don't think that's going to always work. I think people, once they see your VODs, they're going to get a hang of you, and you're not going to be able to go too far. So I'll have them in 7th, with the potential to shoot up. Now, Cloud9 will be my 8th team, and I've been quite disappointed in Cloud9, not because of the firepower. Oxy is terrific. Lots of these players are terrific. I really like Xeppaa's util. But this Cloud9 team, it just looks so scrappy. Some of these rounds they get into, and leaning into the scrap is okay, but it's like sometimes they're trying to execute a set strat, and it gets really messy, and that is what's going to hurt this team against some better teams. And also, it's like Whippy and Xeppaa had really good first halves to the series, but then really struggled to find value on some maps where they just weren't being set up as much. Xeppaa really struggles when he's off of that Raze, but on the Raze he looks so impactful. So I think leaning into the double dive is how Cloud9 are going to maybe be able to beat some of these teams. Leaning into that double dive, leaning into that scrappiness, almost that Gentlemate style of play where it can be very aggressive at times, but at the same time, there were just too many mistakes coming out from this Cloud9 roster for me to put them higher. They almost should have lost MIBR. Let's be honest. Artscene played phenomenal, and they're going to go in 9th because they beat Furia. And I thought Furia would be a lot higher on this list. All the teams in VCT Americas are so good at the end of the day. They're so competitive and a lot of firepower on all of these teams. But at the same time, MIBR impressed me the least. They had a lot of good set protocols, but at the end of the day, they just don't have. They do lack some of the firepower to make some of these mid-rounding adaptations that Sentinels can make. For example, Sentinels or G2. So I'm going to put them in 9th. I really think they had a poor showing for sure. Even though they beat Furia and potentially, have a chance to still make playoffs. If Cloud9 comes down, if NRG beats Cloud9, MIBR could very well win this. And honestly, they might because they'll have a rematch against them. And so it'll probably look a lot better from them. They'll know what mistakes they made. But I also think Cloud9 will shape up as well. I think maybe some nerves coming into play. Maybe just some poor calling from Vanity, honestly. I didn't expect that to come out of play. But I thought there would be, like, a lot of the time Vanity was making reads that, you'd think would get the other team and catch them off guard. But MIBR was well ahead of that. So at the same time, you kind of have to question some of the proactivity from Cloud9, and MIBR was able to punish that good. But at the end of the day, they still lost to Cloud9. Cloud9, even though they weren't playing very good, still prevailed over the firepower of MIBR, so I'll put them 9th. And Furia at 10th. MW's era teams are continuing to not be able to find the success that they should. Honestly, Furia played a really close game against MIBR, so maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. I think they will definitely bounce up as the season goes on. They have a lot of talent on that roster as well. Khalil's a very good player. I've admired him for a while. I just think at the end of the day, Furia, tough matchup against NRG first, you can call that off. But the fact that they lost to MIBR just really put some questions into my eyes. If Furia had beaten MIBR, I actually would be considering putting them like higher than Crew. But the fact that they didn't beat MIBR and a sloppy Cloud9 was able to take down MIBR, and especially Furia wasn't even able to take a map off of MIBR, I don't believe. I think they lost their map pick of Breeze, which is just, it's tough to see that even though it's a close series. Again, all these teams are super close. These are just my first impression power rankings. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like this type of content, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.